TrekCon 4. Boom. There
Hello,
we
everyone.
go. Hey, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Lolita. Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, veteran of all these many years of Star Trek, and the person who helped bring me into the fold, one of them, my good friend, longtime call, Lolita Fatjo. A lot of you know
Hello, everyone.
from the convention circuit, but Lolita was doing her duty there for many years in the Star Trek trenches at the Hart Building with the writers and around. Assistant, she was the not assistant, she was script coordinator. Lolita, why don't you tell everybody what that actually meant?
Well,
And you were a writer's assistant too.
I was. I came to Star Trek in 1987 at the beginning of the second season of The Next Generation. And I became a writer's assistant for a producer named Burt Armus, the Skin of Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And
or the namesake, anyway.
Yes. And Maurice Hurley was the executive producer at that time. And little by little, I just kind of worked for different writer producers. And then the script coordinator job became available, and I took that. And I did that for many years on Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and the two first Next Generation films. So there you go.
I want to say welcome to everybody here at Virtual TrekCon, and we do have a chat room that I can see. I think are you seeing it now, Lolita?
I am.
People popping in. So we've got lots to throw at you, but we can also look back and forth at the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on that. So apologies if I don't get to everything, depending on how many folks we've got with us today, having a good time. And we've got a lot of fun images to show. Some of these things have only been seen if you've been at my slideshows over the years at the cons, or if you're in Portal 47 and we've shared, but Lolita's been a guest on Portal, and we're missing somebody today, I have to say.
Yes, Janet.
Yeah, so my wife Janet was I say Lolita's assistant, but she didn't answer your phone.
No, she did not. she was more than an assistant.
Yeah, she was the assistant script coordinator and did a lot of hands-on work.
Yes, we couldn't have done it without the assistant script coordinators. Did it all
on each show as the show. Yeah. So let me bop over here for just a second, and
there's Janet.
There's Janet. She was supposed to be with us. She's sick. She's feeling better, but I'm telling everybody she would have loved to have been here if she's feeling better. But every time she talks, she's got a cough, so it would not have been pleasant.
No.
So hopefully in a day or two, if this had been a day or two later, we would have had her with us. But look for her. She's going to be with me at. If anybody's coming to SoonerCon in June, and she may be popping up with me now again, because we used to do conventions together. But this, you know what, Lolita, this photo right here is, we were visiting you when I was working on the Next Generation Companion.
Wow.
And I don't even want to, and Janet wasn't working. We were visiting from Oklahoma. We were a year from moving to LA, but here's a good old
I said to Larry earlier, I didn't even know who that was. And I'm talking about myself. I recognized you guys, but I thought, who is that woman they're talking to and posing with? That is me in my office. And you said 1993, so it's 30 years ago.
Okay, I wasn't going to do the math, but you know.
That's crazy. Well, I still have long hair. It's changed colors, but...
Well, I say the heart, these are, you know, you think, oh, it was always funny how Star Trek was like the epitome of sci-fi and production in the future, but the offices in the Hart Building and Cooper were just these, you know, room air conditioners, old 30s Paramount building.
Beautiful buildings, but not good in the winter and not good in the summer.
Yeah, and there she was, and still is.
That's the Hart Building.
Like yeah.
That's the building that Gene Roddenberry worked in, where all the writers were housed for many, many, many years. And you see those two carts, the cart on my right, near the door, that's Gene Roddenberry's window there. He had that bottom right office forever and ever until he passed away. And then it became other people's offices, one including Michael Piller. But lots of things happened in the Hart Building.
Yeah,
Lots.
And I was going to say there's close-ups of this, but this golf cart had an Enterprise D sticker on it.
Yes, it did.
That's so you can't see it there, but that's that. Well, I always like to show people so much of this, it feels old to me, but you know, we've got a whole generation of fans that didn't have the privilege of you can take a tour at Paramount today and the guides will know a little bit about what's going on. But back in the day, to show how much of the lot was Star Trek, I like to use this, like the movie stages here, but TNG and Voyager had the same stages, DS9, when both shows were going. And then here's the Hart Building and the Cooper Building over here.
That map says March 1994.
Yeah, this is when I was visiting and did a tour before we moved full time.
Wow.
When I was working. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, but it also shows here's where the writers were over here, the producers and post were over here, and the stages actual shooting were here. Of course, some of the other but that's how much of a distance there was to, and the New York streets were back here. The original Star Trek, they were renumbered, but the original Star Trek series was over here on the Desilu side of the lot. That's what they,
right.
Yeah. And then this is that, sometimes it felt like the street, this is the Cooper building and the Hart building's over here. And these are actors lined up for auditions, but sometimes it felt like this was a mile wide gulf.
Yes.
You're so close here, but when you're actually in the building, and there you are in your office.
Oh my Lord in heaven. I can't believe that. That's got to be maybe the same trip in 93.
It's the same day. Yeah. This was like, right. You've got the same top on, but
oh my goodness. Look at that old computer.
Yeah.
And when I got to work at Star Trek in 87, they had literally just gotten computers. And most of the writers were either still writing everything on long legal yellow pads by hand, or they were using typewriters. So one of my jobs was to get everybody onto computers and putting the scripts in that way. It was not easy, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, and this gets in the nitty gritty, but I remember, what was it? Michael Piller didn't want to convert to WordPerfect or whatever. So they were using, or he didn't want to get off. Anyway, there was a whole overlay.
It was a nightmare. Everybody was using different programs, and script programs were just coming into feature. So yeah, it was not a fun thing to be in the middle of, but it was exciting and different, but not necessarily fun.
Yeah. Well, let me just try what this looks like. Oh, we're both there. Okay, I'm going to do that. Makes it a little bigger. And here's Janet, since I've got her.
Yes, there's Janet in her office. We had three offices in a row with doors in between, Janet and then myself. And then on the other side of me was the assistant to Deep Space Nine, assistant script coordinator for Deep Space Nine, who for the most part was Bob Gillen. So we had some good times there.
There's Bob.
There's Bob. There's Bob and Janet. Yeah.
This was later in the run there with all the and your dailies weren't digital. They came on VHS tapes and went into the mailboxes for all the writers there.
And what those guys are holding is, a lot of you know that Star Trek was the only show in Hollywood that accepted outside script submissions. So we received, over the time we did that, over 30,000 spec scripts, and that's what they're holding in their hands there. It was quite a program. It helped some writers get their first break in the business, but it was a lot of work on our end.
Yeah. And it started against the whole reason it's not done is because of ownership and people saying, oh, you stole my idea and all that. And against the advice of lawyers, we're jumping around here, but I'm madly looking for, but Michael Piller came in so behind, because he came in late to his season, and he was so overwhelmed that he said, why don't we put these fan ideas to use, and came up with the release form, which allowed that all to happen. But
exactly.
It was a huge...
Also, Michael realized that he needed the help of the fans to get stories coming in. And he also, his other theory was that someone had given him a break as a young writer, and he wanted to do the same for writers, which was another reason he started that script submission program.
Yeah. There, I wanted to get
there. He is.
Yeah, there we are. And it worked. And it went from third season of Next Gen all the way through
Voyager.
Through the end of Voyager, right? And
not the end of Voyager. We stopped at someplace after 3, maybe 4 seasons of Voyager.
Yeah. It's partly because this is what your mail looked like. Look at this stack over here. It got behind, and people said, "Hey, you had my script for a year." And it's like, I'm sorry, we're doing a show.
Too much. No, not just one show either.
Right.
2 shows and movies. Yeah.
And then on top of that, then some of those, maybe they weren't bought, but they liked the writers' ideas. And so all the writers heard pitches, not just from regular writers, but from a lot of these fans.
Absolutely. And a lot of young writers got their break that way.
It soaked up a lot of you guys' time, is what I'm circling back to.
Yes.
It's just the whole, that other shows didn't have to deal with.
No.
Oh. So I love this. This is Janet's bulletin board from the day I took that. This is later on. So she's got kids stuff up here, and pictures of us. And these are German voice actors at the time. But here's her director's schedule, and here's, of course, call sheets, and here's the office phone directory. But that's your board looked a lot like that too. I just had hers,
Yes.
coming on. And here's past title before the internet. Here's past titles of episodes for fast, reference. And tell everybody what this is. See my cursor?
Yeah.
Tell everybody what that is.
Those are the colors of the script covers for each season. We had to choose a new color for the front of the scripts, and they were like construction paper. So that was a big deal. Every year, everybody got to choose and pick their, pick in, and then the executive producer would finally pick it. And it was kind of exciting though, because that meant we were starting a new season again.
Yeah. Well, it's like it was like whoever the showrunner, quote unquote, was, it was like their perk or prerogative. And these were Jeri's. And I remember, because the minute Brandon took over on 5th season, he changed it. And next gens had been different, and DS9s were different.
We had different colors every year.
So you could tell them at a glance what show you're. But this was the purple, the light purple here was the odd numbered seasons, and then that's the final, and this is the draft, and then the even numbered for Jeri were this magenta and the gray. So why don't we talk about that for a second? We've got people here, but I love this. You can tell I've got this stocked up. So here's that's why I like this. Here's a sample script. So tell everybody what we're looking at here.
We are looking at drafts of scripts. First draft, you can see, does not have the picture of the Star Trek Voyager on it. Mm-hmm. It just has the title and a date. Excuse me. And the first draft was what it is. It was a first draft of the script. It could go through many revisions, hence all the different colored pages. All the different colors meant something on that page had changed. It could be one word, it could be entire blocks of dialogue, but there was a change on that. So every time there was a change, we would have to put out a new page. Those pages would go to hundreds and hundreds of people, including the actors. The final script where the Voyager ship is, that is the final script. That's what was the shooting script, even though there were still many changes going on during the shoot. You can see all those dates. It's hard to see. Mm-hmm. Those are all dates there and all colors.
The reason I have this one pulled out is because Deadlock, and I don't know if anything, I have to check in to see what's happened with Discovery and Picard and and Lower Decks. But of the live action, and this was true through Enterprise. This episode, Deadlock, went through more of the color wheel, because there's 10 colors in the wheel. And just for the heck of it.
That was a lot. That looks like 20 something.
There's your office color, because blue was the first color. Can you remember the color wheel off the top of your head?
Blue, pink, yellow, goldenrod, green. Then it kind of gets messed up.
Okay.
After
I was going to say, I'm cheating you here doing.
Yeah, something like that. And there was goldenrod and tan. But yeah, if we got to the end of the wheel, we were in trouble.
Well, here you go. This is like the wheel running through for the.
And I would bet anything Brandon Braga wrote that script.
Yeah. Well, this is the script where there was one day, and I love this story. There were Brandon, Jeri, and Michael were all arguing over whether to call something a moon, a planetoid, or an asteroid. And they each kept going back and around, and some of the changes just had where they were changing the word. Anyway, it was a silly thing. I just remember Janet came home and said, "Make up your mind."
So this was a Brandon Braga script, though, correct?
I think so, yeah.
I have a feeling it is. So,
but this also shows this is how the color change pages would come, and then you had to go in and collate the script.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What I call a rainbow is when all the real pages have been put in, but it doesn't all update. It's only the change page, so you wind up with this.
Yeah. This is so true. So, just to take a minute, is anybody having questions? Or it looks like a lot of comments, but does anybody have a specific question we can answer? Hi, Melissa. Hello, everyone.
Let me do this and go back to us. Let's see if we've got people missing Janet. I know, everybody.
I know. I am too. I'm so sad. And yes, Melissa, to be a fly on that wall. Ha ha ha. We were. Oh my gosh.
And just
Larry,
to say, the end of this time, like I was working on my books, and in fact, here in a second, do I have that one? Somewhere I'll get to it. Is this it? This is me. So Renee, thank you, Lolita. So you were great when I was coming out and didn't know anybody, and you were saying you need to talk to Larry. He's doing the official book on Next Generation. But this is late in 6th season, and all the shows hadn't aired yet. And you were like, here's the scripts, just go read them. And I think Renee Echevarria had already checked out of his office, and you said, just go up and use Renee's office.
Oh, well,
and that's where I am. And I'm busily there taking notes on the last few scripts of. Okay. But that's that. But anyway, but yeah.
Hi, Kieran from England. I'll see you in a week.
Oops, there. I don't want that. Boom. There we go. Yeah. It's a crazy time. We've got this weekend, and Gallifrey is live here in LA. And then
we're going on the Star Trek cruise, and the Voyager documentary crew is coming on the Star Trek cruise, so we can completely wrap up the Voyager documentary, which we can talk about later if we have time. But
yeah. And I know you've got a panel, on Monday about the doc?
We do. Sunday? We have a panel on for this convention on Monday. I'm not sure of the time yet, but yes, Monday. Dave Zappone for sure and I will be on that panel along with Ryan Husk. So we can fill you in then.
Yeah.
There's a question, Larry. Which episodes were the call sheets for? Oh, all of that season, I would imagine, that were hanging on the wall.
Yeah, you had it's you guys' office, but what most people did, I think Cooper did something different. They either did something with spikes, but you guys had the things with the hooks that were curled up at the end.
We put every single one on there. And, so a whole season would be like this big.
A stack. Yeah. And the first day would be the first one. And so the current, when the PAs brought around the new call sheets, you just stuck it on the top of the stack.
That's right.
And by the end of the season, you'd have a stack that was that thick, only it's sitting on that.
Yeah.
That's why
the call sheets also went through a lot of colors, but not the whole color wheel.
Yeah. I'm trying to, let me go back here and I think, yeah.
There's Ryan. I had a dream last night that I was on the cruise. It was pretty fun. I think I got my fill for this year. Ha. Hi, Ryan.
I was going to say real fast. See, you can see Janet's got several there on her.
Yes, those are the call sheets. And that old computer still blows me away.
I'm looking, if I would get into this, let me see. So I can do this on my end. Boom. Christoph, who is coming to us from one of my portales and is in Innsbruck, Austria, in Western Austria.
Oh.
He says, is that the PC with that word software that nobody else dared to touch? Well, it was a funky day because that's why you all were so important, because now all the writers have grown up doing their own writing.
No. I mean, when I got there, I was hired as a Microsoft Word expert, and I didn't even know what that word meant. So I faked my way through the whole thing. But yeah, there was no computers until the beginning of the second season. And even then, we did a lot of stuff on the Selectric typewriters for a long time because it was a long learning curve for the computers. So
I am just
no internet back then.
Yeah, and no social media to keep up with.
No, thank God. So the only
leaking was when you guys would go and blab at a con, right?
And get in trouble. Yeah.
I'm just yeah. No, it was that it's like that universal blue was the first changes, then pink, then yellow, but it was used for the call sheets too.
Yes, it was. But if we ever got all the way through the color wheel with the call sheets, we'd be in trouble.
I am yelling here back at Gabe Kerner. Thank you, Gabe. Never check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yep. Good to see. I'm trying to run through the chat here and see. Everybody's excited about the Picard premiere last night, of course, or overnight. I say last night.
It actually premieres tonight on Real TV, right?
Yeah. Well, it's out there right now for the one. Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's Lolita and Larry.
Who said that?
That was whoever's running the VTC.
Okay. We know who that is.
Oh, and a keyboard tray.
Yes, a keyboard tray. Oh my gosh. I know things have changed so much, right? Well, look at that picture was 30 years ago. And you said that was 1993. Yep. So I started in 87. That's like another 6-year difference. So can you imagine how archaic it was when I first got there? Crazy.
Here you go. People still writing on yellow pads. I'm trying to find...
I can tell you, I bet there's still writers that write on yellow pads even to this day.
Here you go. Here's a guy that wrote on a yellow pad way longer than most. this guy.
Yes, I was just that's who I was just referring to without saying it. That's Ira Stephen Bear, dear friend and mentor and boss. And I would bet anything, and I'm going to ask him when I see him, that he still does a lot of writing on legal pads.
So this is Ira. This is, yes, everybody. This is pre-Bluebeard Ira.
Yes, still with the beard.
Still the glasses, but this is well, when I interviewed him, when he didn't yell at me. No, I'm kidding. The reporter, the first time I met Ira, the reporter before me, he said, I walked in, he says, well, are you going to screw me over like the last reporter that interviewed me did?
Oh my gosh.
Like, oh my gosh, no. So we've been fine ever since. But this was like second season DS9, I think, or going.
This is a long time ago.
Long time ago. But that's why I love having these.
Larry, I'm so impressed that you have all these pictures, because I have nothing, and it makes me really sad that I don't. So this is, someday I'm going to get copies of all this stuff from you.
It's right here. It's right here. Yeah,
great.
I'm very glad I did too.
Did I ever work with Melinda Snodgrass?
Yeah.
Can I answer that question?
No, go ahead. What?
Somebody asked me if I ever worked with Melinda Snodgrass, and the answer is absolutely. Melinda was there. She is right there. This is Richard Manning, Hans Beimler, Ron Moore, Hans Beimler, and Melinda Snodgrass. All look at how young. Oh my God! Look at Ira, such a baby, and Ron with the red bow tie. That's classic. Larry, where do you think this was from, and what year?
This was, I thought that for years this was from the Emmys, but Melinda was a guest on Portal 47, and she reminded me that this was, The Measure of a Man, her script about Data,
yes,
was nominated for a Writers Guild Award. So this is the Writers Guild Awards, and she had a great story how Paramount wouldn't buy them a table because she was a nominee. So all the guys got together and they helped her buy a table. Now. And then they went.
That's right.
And they supported her because they were thrilled.
Yes. And Melinda was a great friend at the time. I haven't seen her in years. I went and stayed with her at her ranch out in Santa Fe or Albuquerque. Really great, talented lady and a great author. Written many books. So yes, to answer your question, whoever asked, I did work with Melinda Snodgrass.
There you go. And Melinda's like a lot of people, including David Gerald and late great Dorothy Fontana, that they loved Star Trek. A lot of the fans who became pros came in, and a lot of them didn't have the best experience.
No, they did not have great experiences working on the show, unfortunately.
Depending on when it was, and sometimes the show was in more chaos, as we know, than others. But the good thing is most all of them have come around, and like Melinda was finally took her a while to get over it, 20 years to get over it, but
to get over her PTSD. I get it.
But good thing is lately, the last few years, Melinda's gone back.
Oh, and that's good to hear. I'd love to see her again sometime.
Yeah, I'm going back and I'm looking here at our.
Pardon me, my nose is running for some reason, you guys. Sorry.
I think it's because it's February 2023.
And I have to go get on a plane, of course.
So here's Matt, you're talking about how many scripts Star Trek got over the time the program was open.
30,000
scripts. Yeah. Said it's shame it still doesn't happen. Well,
I'll tell you why. And Larry mentioned it earlier. It became a legal nightmare because as we created and shot more and more episodes, we were getting so behind on the script submissions that, let's just say, Data went to a planet of apes. I'm just throwing that out there. Well, we've already shot that. You'd sent it in, but it's in that slush pile, what we called it. We didn't steal your idea because we never even read your script. But it just snowballed, and it was a domino effect, and lawyers were getting involved.
Or 8 people actually did have basically the same idea.
We were getting sued, and it just wasn't worth it anymore.
So all the things that the attorneys said, this is why we don't do it. This is why in 50, 60 years, nobody does this.
They were right.
Yeah.
They were right.
But
however, for the writers that did get a break from that program, it was wonderful. So.
Thank you, Linda. She says it's like a mini Portal 47. Well, with just 2 of us, if Janet had been here, it would have been more of a panel. But yeah, let me. Oh my gosh, I know I'm going to be way behind on the.
We have just a half hour. I want to see more pictures, Larry.
Okay. So Dan, I'm going to just say there's a Gone with the Wind poster in that picture because that was actually. Casablanca, which was Janet's personal, but most of the time people just pulled stuff out of the Paramount rental and put on their Let me see. I'm gonna skip through some of these then. Hold on. Let me get
You guys enjoying the pictures? Because I am. Well,
well,
not
like
necessarily of
Linda said,
me,
this
but
is like a mini
it just, I
portrait.
can't believe I was that young and skinny.
Well, of course you were. What do you mean? You're not like you're
Well, look
well,
at my arms. Now they're all covered up. Somebody says I love the pictures. I do too. I love seeing all the writers so young, and
yeah, well, we'll get to so there's
there's Janet
with it.
again.
This was like early when she first was there because her bulletin board isn't
Yeah.
all
You
and
have
see,
some pictures of Jeri Taylor, I believe,
yep,
and
yep. I wanted to do so. There's our next. So this is next. So you mentioned you'd worked with Maury Hurley.
Maury Hurley.
Yeah,
Yes, he was the first big boss I had at Star Trek before Michael Wagner came, and that was very short lived. But then Michael Piller came, and everything changed. But Maury Hurley was a great man. My friend Michael Piller, gone too young. We had a great friendship because of baseball, and he was a tough person to work for, but I learned a lot from him. Yeah,
and brought in all the guys
he
and
did.
women who came in later. There's
Yes,
a picture of
a lot of Oh,
so
there's
here's
the Hart Building. Oh,
now there were other people in the Hart Building, but this was like the peak of DS9 and TNG or Voyager. But you see how many offices are Star Trek people?
yeah.
Robert Wolfe, Jeri Taylor,
Michael Piller, Ron Moore,
yep,
Lisa Klink,
Renee. So
Brannon,
this is
Piller,
Voyager.
Hans Beimler, Ira Bear. Wow.
But see, John Badham was in that and his company office, and then good old AC. I've got a picture. So this is right before Jeri
Oh my
Taylor
goodness
retired.
gracious. So that's Jeri Taylor, myself, Janet Nemecek, and Sandra Senna, who was another writer's assistant for us for a long time. And I guess Patrick Stewart wearing Mickey Mouse ears. I have no idea why, but
because it was like The Office. Yeah, Sandra wound up being Jerry's assistant for the end. The last few years she was there.
yes.
And then here we've got this was from the trading card set, but I'm so glad these pictures got taken because I never would have been allowed in unless I was doing something special. But this is Jerry's office and the TNG writers.
This is Peter Allen Fields,
yeah.
Ron Moore, Joe Minosky, and Brannon sitting there. I'm not sure the interns always wrote on the board. I'm not sure who that is.
I'm not either. And Pete was not a staffer on TNGs, but this was one of his scripts. Probably a major. Did he do all the major scripts?
Because he was a staffer on DS9.
On DS9, the first couple of years.
Yeah.
So I think they're breaking his script. And this was the cover of when Jeri novelized Unification, the novel. The script, two-part script with Spock, not anymore. And then Pocket had her novelize it for a novel. And they did this special art.
And I also want you to notice the big TV with the VHS below it. So dailies were watched then.
Yeah. So here's Baby Brannon in his office.
Oh my Lord in heaven!
When I first met him.
Wow. Baby Ron and Elvis.
Ron. So with the Velvet Elf, this was the inspiration for the Velvet Morn painting. Everybody on DS9. But the first time I interviewed Ron, and you see there's my tape recorder down here. The Blue Companion had come out. I was talking to him about updating on some other things, and he told me that he had, aside from his Elvis Velvet, he had an Elvis candle. And whenever somebody would come in to pitch, especially people he didn't know, he would light the candle, and then eventually it would get puddly and go out. And if it was a really bad pitch person, and he was just enduring a really bad session, he told me one time, he'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, our time's up. You have to leave. Thank you, though." And they'd say, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean?" He says, "Well, the Elvis candle went out, so that's the end of our
go."
Anyway, that's a goofy story. And there's your predecessor.
Yes, there's Eric Stillwell, my friend Eric, who was just here visiting me from France. He and his wife retired to France. Eric worked on Next Generation for a long time, and then went on to leave with Michael Piller and worked for Michael Piller for many years before Michael passed away.
And during the started as a PA, got to sell the story that became Yesterday's Enterprise. And
I think he started as a page, actually.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Yes.
He was. Here's the funny story on Eric, and I've got this somewhere. The night of the premiere party and screening for the pilot for Farpoint, they had misspelled Rick's last name on the list as Berman, as Burman.
Oh no.
And Eric, this is such a, you heard this story.
I
So
think
Eric
it's
is
been a
like
while.
checking names off. It was a literal list. You weren't looking at your laptop.
No,
And
no.
he's got a paper,
Laptop.
and I have he gave me the actual list. And he sees, and he says, Rick Berman, and Rick shows him he says, I'm sorry, who are you, sir? And he shows him his ID, and he said, well, it's not, he held up Rick for like
Oh
15, 20 minutes
no.
and didn't let him into the screening. Anyway,
There goes that relationship.
that,
So
I think that explains much, don't you?
I do too. I still have that scarf and shirt. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. So this is my office. To the girl in the white is Maggie Allen. She was a writer's assistant for a long time. She actually took my job when I left Voyager as script coordinator. She was assistant script coordinator before I left.
For 2 or 3 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Kim Fitzgerald Seabrooks was an assistant to the writers for many years. We were dear friends. We went through a lot together.
Wasn't she Michael's assistant for a while?
She was for a long time. Yeah. And yeah, that's a great shot. I love that.
This is some of Richard Barnett, who's a good fan, good friend of the Akutas, and did a lot of photography like this for convention talks and things. But
yeah,
there you go. And speaking of,
oh my gosh, here's a convention shot of myself and Ron and Eric Stillwell and Brandon Braga. Brandon and Ron and I, along with Eric, used to do a writer's workshop, and we took it all over the world for a while. And basically, it was to help people with their script submissions, because we really thought this is a good program. Let's try to help them do this correctly. We couldn't tell them or teach them how to write, but we could teach them how to format it and send it in properly. And we had a lot of success with that. I still to this day go to conventions and have people come up to me and say, I sent in a script because I took your workshop. It was very rewarding and still is all these 30 years later.
Yeah. And this was, I know this was at Grand Slam before Vegas. The big show was the Grand Slam in Pasadena.
In Pasadena, yeah.
There's one of those round columns at the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's Googling. It's funny to me because I feel like I'm going to get these old shots out and show them. And I show these in Portal 47, but there's so many folks in our chat that are saying, oh my God, it's like, oh yes, this is why, Lolita, there was a time when I would think this is all going to get old and everyone has seen all this before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I look at
it. Stories like a million times. And the great thing about Star Trek is, especially with new shows coming, we've got new fans.
Yeah.
And they haven't heard the stories or seen the pictures. And they weren't there in the 90s and saw our talks at cons. And
yes. And I'm not sure I like being referred to as the legacy Star Trek shows, but anyway.
Well, that's a nicer word than the old shows.
Well, I guess so.
Legacy is the nice word.
I know. But at any rate, yes, it's fun to see all these pictures and to see us all so young, and we've survived.
Yeah.
And still doing it.
I'm so sorry, everybody. Dan says scripts and introducing to the term collated. Yeah.
Yes, collation.
What's funny is everybody had their own way. Some people threw the old pages away. Janet would always fold her old ones over so she had it. Because there'd be times when, I should save this for a script. I remember the times when like they would actually, a change would get made and they'd argue and go back to the original version. And the kind of things that made you guys tear your hair out. Here you go. Here's a guy some folks may know. Yeah, Narain.
Narain Shankar started as a science consultant for us, which meant that he really helped with all the technobabble. And then he eventually became a staff writer. And Narain has gone on to run many of his own shows, including CSI Vegas, amongst others.
And now The Expanse, most recently.
That's right.
I had a lot of Expanse fans.
He came to us. He was roommates with Ron Moore in college. And so Ron brought Narain in, and he was a great asset.
And if you ever watched yesterday's Enterprise and didn't realize this, Narendra 3 was a play on Narain's name. So do you know what he's standing in front of, Lolita?
Yes, that is. Well, my eyes aren't that good, Larry. No, you're going to have to tell me.
It's the pitch board. It's
the pitch. Oh my gosh! Yes. This is how they rated the pitches of people coming in. So
I think it was more therapy than it was.
It was more for the writers to have fun with, because they would sit through all these pitches and probably 80% of them were just going, and being nice. But then there was this great light where we got a script or a story out of it. But yes, I'd forgotten all about that board.
I have close-ups of this, but
Hard to
they've got
see.
like there's one for Q, there's one for Guinan, there's one called Milk Carton. It was like when someone went missing.
Yes.
And but what's funny is they make fun, but then if you can tell, when there'd be a green one, they do a dollar sign like, okay, we actually bought one of these.
Right.
But
Right.
there's Space Pirates is up here. Somebody the other day said something about, oh, Space Pirates was only a original series band. I'm like, no. That's why Gambit was such a big deal, because they still, anyway. But all the pitches, because they would hear some things. That's what was so amazing about
Over and over and over again.
Yeah, you'd hear. I remember, like I'm gonna keep going. I'll see what I've got next. Oh,
there's Renee Echeverria.
Yeah.
Renee is a product of the script submission program. He sent in a script called The Offspring, which of course was a famous episode with Data's daughter, Lal. And Renee came out to break his story. He was waiting tables in New York, and he was a Star Trek fan. This was a great break for him. He happened to be there when Gene Roddenberry passed away. So we had to keep him on for about 4 more days while Gene's memorial service and everything happened. Renee then went on to be a staff writer and a producer, and again has gone on to do great things in this business.
Yeah, Carnival. I think he just had a show, Carnival Row, whatever.
Is that right? Yeah.
Had several over the years, but no, Renee. He was in New York and he wanted to be a theater. He wanted to be a theater scripter, write for plays, write for theater. And he loved Star Trek, but he they were saying, okay, we love you. He was like Ron. They bought his script, but it was like virtually untouched.
Yes,
that's right. Ron's first one, The Offspring, not The Offspring, The Bonding.
The Bonding, yeah, The Bonding. I can tell you that there was The Bonding, The Offspring, Tin Man, and there was one more that were basically bought and not touched at all. The Tin Man was because we were desperate for scripts that second season, and they bought that one.
Yeah,
there's a fourth one I can't remember. It'll come to me.
But Renee had to be talked into coming to. They were like, "We're holding the door for you."
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I really love New York, and LA is LA, and
well, he made the right move.
Yeah, but it's amazing to think back, and that was the '90s, and Next Gen was still like, this was 4th, 5th season, I think. So anyway, it's just funny to think. Oh, there's me again.
There's Larry. Okay, so here comes Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine in both casts there, and we've seen Ira already there with his stand-up. And I mentioned Pete Fields. This was like 2nd season by the time I was working on the Next Gen. But I was talking to Pete because even though he was on staff at DS9, he had pitched. I think the reason he's in that TNG picture, but he wound up, like, everybody liked the way he handled the Loxana shows. When the Loxana episodes got more mature and she wasn't just in there for purely comedy, and Majel loved those, and they would have him come and do another Majel show. And that's why I was talking to him about TNG, even though he was showing me all these goodies from DS9 before anybody got to see them. So and there's the
boys. Those are the DS9 boys. Ira Bear, Renee Echeverria, Robert Hewitt Wolf, Hans Beimler, and a very short-haired Ron Moore.
I was gonna say.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Ron was long. Ron had his mullet there, but he would,
And now has very long hair, which is his. What is the word? What is it?
What?
My brain is going. When it's your signature. There you go.
Oh, yes.
His long hair is his signature now. Yeah.
So this is a cool shot. Now I always flip the boys here backwards. So you tell me who's
this is. Oh God, Larry, you put me on the spot. I always get that wrong too.
Well, when Robert Hewitt Wolf left the show and went off on his own after being there for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Weddle and Thompson.
But Bradley Thompson and David Weddle. But who is who? I'm so sorry. That's embarrassing.
But they were there the last couple of years and wrote some really twisted, dark.
Yeah, they were great guys. But I never could get their names straight, even in person. Weddle and Thompson.
And this was the official Bajor map that got handed off. I think Robert started it, and then they kept it going. But that's a whiteboard. But they actually would find real places when they would mention a Bajoran landmark, and they would actually plot it on the map. So when Terry later on when they did the DS9 book, they took that and put it on paper, but it was a real thing. And the writers it was one of those rare times when, they were actually they didn't depend on assistants or whatever I sent them.
That's
Excuse
cool.
me, guys.
Then comes Voyager.
Here comes Voyager, and this is early. So there's
Jeri Taylor, who co-created Voyager, and ran the show for 4 years in the writing department before she retired.
Yep. So. This is actually the 5th or 6th season of Next Gen, so just a little earlier. But there's what an executive producer's office looks like, gang.
Same as everybody else's, an old computer and an old printer.
A little bigger, but yeah. And Ken Biller.
Ken Biller came on staff at some point and then ended up last season of Voyager becoming the showrunner.
Yep. Voyager was the show. I think one of the things that a lot of people love Voyager. They love Kate. They love Jeri. They love the feminine, and Bob Picardo. I mean, all the cast. But I think Voyager is the show that suffered the most from having turnover at the top. And not like so much. A lot of it was like Jeri retired. Michael backed away. Brannon went to do Enterprise, and Ken ran the show the last year, but I think that piles up a little bit. And here's a baby.
Oh, my friend Brian Fuller, Brian the Toy Man. Brian is a great guy. Talk about someone who's gone on to do great things. Brian wrote for us for Voyager, and was he on Enterprise, Larry?
No, he left at the end, before the end of Voyager. I think he left 6th season of Voyager.
Yeah, he did. He left when I did. That's right. Yeah. So no, Brian. I mean, his resume speaks high. It's amazing what he's done. Yeah. Great guy. Great guy.
You can credit Captain Proton, I think, to Brian among many other things.
Yes,
and a lot of the 7 stories. So here's our friend Michael Taylor.
Michael Taylor came on staff during Voyager, and I believe was on Enterprise for a bit.
No, he left with Voyager.
Okay,
too.
That's right. Because Michael Taylor came to work for Michael Pillar. We were doing the Dead Zone, and Michael had some other projects going on. And I worked for Michael Pillar for a while at Pillar Squared, and Michael was there then. That's right. I'd forgotten that. Yeah.
So here's a nice. Here's the Voyager room.
Yes, Brian Fuller, Brandon Braga, Lisa Klink, Ken Biller, Rob Doherty, who started as a writer's assistant and also has gone on to do great things, and Jeri Taylor and her famous tracksuits.
Tracksuits or tracksuits? What are we saying?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's funny. So there's her. Yeah, this is the Voyager years, so it's updated a little bit from. But there's your big executive office. Yeehaw. Yeah. No, Rob's done really well for him. I need to get him on Portal too. Was it Sherlock or Elementary? I get
Elementary.
Elementary.
Yeah.
I don't let me mix those up. But that's a great shot of them at their
That's
height
wonderful.
There. Now I love this because I just was standing here the day one of the days this was, if I was visiting Janet and turned around and tell everybody what's going on.
Apparently,
this is the epitome of a day in the life shot.
Yeah, Larry reminded me of this today when we were looking at these pictures. So there was a guy, I don't know who his name. Don't even remember what he looks like, to be honest.
It was like Bob. I mean,
just used to come through the buildings with racks of women's clothes. And of course, working 16 hours a day, yes, I'll buy clothes from this guy on the rack. So apparently this was one of the days, because it looks like I'm trying on some pants or something. And there's Jeri Taylor. The gal in the back, I can't remember her name. She worked for us for a while. And then Karen worked.
She left when she sold a movie script.
Yeah, that's right. And then this was Karen. She worked for Brannon for a while. And April Rossi worked in the Cooper building for many, many years. Unfortunately, she's passed away since. I guess that was a day in the life of girls.
She's credited later on. She and Dave separated, but April Nicifera.
Yes.
And if you saw the for April, she came back and was producing on the new shows.
Yes.
And then got sick, had a cancer.
Yeah.
And fought it for years and sadly passed. So if you saw all the memorials to April, that was her. But this was back in the day when she was a writer's assistant, or she was a PA and then an assistant. Yeah. So
that was Girls' Day.
But this was like you're sitting there in your office all day. You don't have time to go. You're exhausted to go shop, and it was pre-internet, so you couldn't even order something. But he actually made a living going around the
Oh, it
buildings
was
at
great.
Paramount.
We had all kinds of people come through, food people. Yeah, it was great because we couldn't leave our office anyway. So
But that's just to me, that's
yeah.
wacky. What do we got here? Oh, so this is when Janet and I sold the first time, and Lolita said, "Well, you never sell on your first pitch." Well, we
But
did. Never did again. But this is from the set of what became Prophecy. Janet with her purple socks, which was not our show by the end of it, because we pitched this the December before the pilot aired in January, like early on, and then by the time they used it, it had to be changed. But Klingons in the Delta Quadrant, and it was a great time when we watched it. And then tell everybody who this is. Lo.
This is the famous A.C. Lyles, and A.C. Lyles was the ambassador, the mayor of Paramount, and Larry can chime in too. A.C. was born in the South, and he started working as a little young kid at the Paramount Theater in Atlanta or wherever he was from. And he swore that he was going to make it to Hollywood and be a big wig someday. And it came true. He came to Paramount very early on, in probably the 30s, maybe.
Well, but he talks about when he was a kid, like he was 10 or 12, and he was an usher at a Paramount theater. So he would always say he had worked for Paramount since he was,
like his whole life, basically.
This is my 80th anniversary with Paramount. Or he'd say something
and he always had a suit on every day. He was the ambassador. He would walk around Paramount and brought a lot of famous people to visit, especially Star Trek. He was good friends with President Reagan. He brought President Reagan to the set. He brought the Dalai Lama to the set. All kinds of people that he would bring.
Colin Powell, when he was Joint Chiefs Chairman. He was, he would speak at the Hollywood Star ceremonies. He would bring the VIPs around because everybody knew him. He was D. Kelly's best man for he and Kelly.
Also, what was wonderful for myself and others, his office was in the Hart Building. Even though there's a building named after A.C. Lyles, he lived in the Hart Building. So we would see him every day and get all kinds of stories for.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, on the top floor. Now, we can tell on him a little bit, can't we? Is it okay?
Sorry?
Can we tell on AC just a little bit?
Of course. He's no longer with us, so yes.
Right. So you all had a little, because AC hit, for one thing, he had this cream colored, was it a Thunderbird?
Beautiful. Original Thunderbird, like from American Graffiti. Yes.
Yes. So you'd always see that parked in the executives lot. But also when he would come through, would always come through and say hi to everybody. And you see his age there. Well, one thing, he would flirt with all the women.
Oh, yes.
How are you, darling? How are you, my dear?
And his perfume was really strong.
And that was what I was going to say. Yeah. He was always liberal with the cologne.
Yes.
And Janet used to say that she could always tell AC was in the building because she could.
You could smell him coming a mile away. But his office, I mean, God, I would love to be myself now at my age. I appreciated it then in my 30s, what he had in his office, all the memorabilia, the posters, the everything. And now at my age now,
I would dig it out. I've got a photo, but because it was like within a year of him passing, and he went very quickly, but I happened to go up there and I said, I would try sometimes, and he wasn't, and he had an assistant that was there all the time. And I actually caught him in one time and went in and we sat down and took pictures. And I'm so glad because he was gone within a year, I think. But his wall, he had that wall of photos. And it was like, oh my God, here he is with everybody around. Not just actors and Hollywood people, but the Reagans.
Dignitaries.
Dignitaries and celebrities and VIPs and politicians. Yeah. And it was amazing. But that's part of the Paramount bit here. I'm trying to get back on track. Where are we here?
We have about 10 minutes. I want to see more pictures. And then if anybody has this speaks for itself. I was one of the fortunate people that got to work with and for Gene Roddenberry. When I came to Star Trek, I was not a Star Trek fan at all. It was a job for me that I thought would last a day or two. I was hired to type scripts and teach people how to use Microsoft Word, which I really didn't even know how to do, but I lied and said I did. The reason that I said I did was there was a big writer's strike in 1987 between the first season and second seasons of Next Gen. And I was an actress, and the whole town shut down and nobody could do any work. And I was working at a factory during those months for a temp agent. And when the strike ended, temp agent called and said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want out of the factory." But I knew it was going to take time for the production offices to get back up and running and my agents to get up and running. So I said, if you have a job at Paramount for a day or two, I'll take it, because I lived walking distance from Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
So the temp agent called me back and he said, I have 3 jobs starting tomorrow. One was on Cheers, one was on Star Trek, and one was, I don't know, I forget, it's so long ago. And I said, what do they need to know for Cheers and Star Trek, and probably the other job? And he told me, and one of the things Star Trek needed was somebody to type scripts that knew how to use Microsoft Word. I said, well, I think I can type scripts. I have no idea. I've seen scripts my whole life. I've been an actress my whole life. But the reason I took that job was because I had taken acting classes from Patrick Stewart when I was in college. And I had been on the same Hollywood softball league with Jonathan Frakes. So this was all before Star Trek. And I thought, oh, that'd be fun to see those 2 guys. So that's why I took that job. And I walked into
and the software was compatible. I mean,
the software, I had no idea what I was doing, but that was just a minor acting job. I walked into the Hart Building, and you saw pictures of it. It's an old 4-story building, and there's just one door in and one door out. Mm-hmm. Long hallway with four doors on each side of that long hallway. And I walked in. It was a bright sunny day. I'll never forget, a little mini skirt, and I was just ready to go. And I opened the doors and I walked in. Well, remember, this is the 80s. There was very few female people in Hollywood working in positions of power, especially writers. So I walked in, and along all of those 4 offices stood a man waiting for me. And the first person there was Gene Roddenberry. And I knew what Star Trek was, and I knew who he was, even though I wasn't a fan. And so I opened the door and I walk in, and the guy on the left, who ultimately was Burt Armus, my first boss, said to me, "Oh my God, you must be the Microsoft Word expert." And I said, "Of course I am." I didn't know a thing, but I faked my way through that first day, second day, and ultimately I stayed for 15 years. So point is, you never know what's going to happen in your life and when a new door is going to open. But I did have the pleasure of knowing Gene, and he was so gracious and lovely and never forgot a birthday, and parties in his office and his house were always just wonderful. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
So
I have my one Gene story, and I don't have a camera because I was following the rules, and it said no cameras on the lot. Before I knew that meant keep your camera in your bag and don't walk around with it, and get it out when you go.
And that's before cell phone cameras too.
Oh yeah. I'm talking about big honking 35,
yeah.
Your Canon AE1 or whatever. But no, I had done my before the internet and before the Akuda's encyclopedia, I had done a Bijo type encyclopedia, but it was late. We were desktop publishing, and I had my Mac, and I had laser printers, and I had FileMaker, and I had done an encyclopedia year by year, and it was, and the writers and the assistants, and it was via Richard Arnold back in the day, got it to them, and they all thought I was God. This thing fell out of heaven and saved them tons of time. And I came to visit one time, and Richard gave me a set tour, and I remember he would introduce me to the assistants and say, "And this is Larry. He's from Oklahoma." And they'd go, "Yeah, And he says, "And he's the one that sends us that deal." And they're like, "Oh my God, you saved my ass. My boss loves you." So one time he said, "Would you like to meet this one trip?" He said, "Would you like to meet Gene?" It was the beginning of the 3rd season. They were shooting Who Watches the Watchers, the bridge scenes. I can remember it like you were saying. And went in and met Susan, and then went in, and he thanked me for doing that. And I said, "Well, it's the least I can do to thank you for all the years, yada, yada." And we talked for 5 minutes, and there's no selfie because it's up here.
Yeah.
And then he was gone a couple of years later. So
yeah, well, it's
before
nice
I got to do the official book for Pocket, and we moved out and all that. Yeah.
Nice to have the memory anyway.
Yeah.
So, well, we've got 4 minutes, you guys.
Here I'll end with this.
Okay.
This was the speaking of the kind of sarcastic therapy that everybody went through. Here's the failure wall.
The rotating door of Star Trek writers. Yes.
This was I took this the last year of the show. It was wound up being Ron's office's bathroom, but this was up in the bathroom on top floor of different people that had it over the years. This was all the people that came and went in the writers' building, and some of them came back. But
yeah, I was going to say Hans
like
and Ricky came back, or Hans came back.
Hans came back, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And there was a lot more after that too. That's just from the next gen. Oh my gosh. So real quick, Deep Space Nine, end of the run of Deep Space Nine. We knew we weren't doing any movies. It was done. Ira Bear, God bless him. He saved the last day to shoot in Jimmy's bar, so that all of the people, all of the actors who were in makeup, like Max and Casey Biggs and Jeff Combs and la da da, could be extras in this scene at Vic's bar. And this is myself and Max as a couple in real life, and in the show. We were all extras that last day, and this is just, to me, priceless.
That's Ron back there.
Yeah, that's Ron, and it's the first time. That's Ron. Anyway, it was amazing to see Casey Biggs and, like I said, Jeff Combs, and the numbers go on and on, the names go on and on. Aaron Eisenberg, to be out of makeup and enjoying themselves and being able to talk to people with all that makeup. So it was
and the writers all in there too, and a lot of fixing. So I threw this one in too, and especially now that she couldn't join us today. But
this is very current. This was a year ago in June.
Yep. So this was for this was the shoot. A lot of people were on this set for the Voyager documentary, and I know you guys are going to talk about that in another panel later. But
yeah, on Monday, I guess it's at 2:15. You guys, Monday at PM.
So there you go. So we got Janet in today too, and and there we go. So I'm going to kill that, and I don't know if we've got boom. Oh my gosh, everybody's been so great, guys. I'm so sorry we didn't get to.
Thank you for all your comments. It's been fabulous.
I didn't know what all, but Lolita wanted to see all these photos again. So there we go.
Oh, the photos are they're so heartwarming to me to see them. And I want copies of them. I want to hang them on my walls. Just so nice, Larry, that you have all that.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Melanie, I'll just tell you real quick. So Life Support Live, our reunion special, that's tomorrow, my dear, not today. That's part of Virtual TrekCon, but it's Friday, not today. So in case somebody didn't set you straight. Yeah.
Larry, I'll see you next Thursday. You have your big group that you're taking around Hollywood next Thursday, correct?
Yeah. So one of my hats that I've got now, Trekland Treks, is a custom tour. When people come on vacation, we'll do a location set tour on my own as a day tour, if you've got a day in your vacation or a business trip. But when there are special events sometimes, and for the people coming to because the cruise is usually Florida, and this year it's LA, so I knew a lot of people from around the globe would be coming in, and I thought, well, the day before and the day after we'd offer this. So the door's closed now, but I've got 10 folks coming on the cruise who are going to do a special, I calling it LA Away Days, but we're going to go to Vasquez and Tillman for Starfleet and a couple other places. But it's me. It's not just going there. It's like what we did with the Voyager doc, only a lot
Larry's a great tour guide and full of information. So if you guys ever have a chance to take his tour, do it.
Thank you that. Thank you that. And again, I'm apologizing. I mean, we could stay on for a minute or two. You've got to get out of town.
I do have to. I have to catch a flight to go to Galfrey. So I will say goodbye, and I will let you talk. How's that?
Okay. Well, I'll do that. I feel bad about and I feel bad about staying on and without Janet, but the chat has been great, everybody. Just look up Lolita. You know how to find Lolita. You know how to find me.
I do.
If you're interested, this is like what Portal 47 guest night is like. And although the guests bring their own photos sometimes, which makes it even cooler. So anyway, Lolita, thank you for asking me to do this.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm missing Janet. But
missing Janet. And I'll see all of you on Monday with the Voyager documentary update. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye, Larry. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Lo. And thanks, everybody. I'm going to go call it off. Yeah, I think, okay, I'll answer a couple of these. So, and I'm way down at the end of the chat, guys, so I'm apologizing. I think Eve asked about the whiteboard of Bajor. The last I know, I think Ira has it in his garage, and I think it exists and hasn't been touched. He might not have it, but somebody has it. Maybe Wolfie got away with it. Robert Wolf got away with it. Oh my goodness. Yes, Christoph, that was part of it. There's an eraser right above the do not erase sign. You guys talking about the map. I know, I was in shock. That's why I knew at the time. And we didn't have digital. I've got a set of slides films, guys. I took slides so there would be no reflections. I actually, aside from the bigness of it, I took close-ups of sections. So later on, somebody could scan and digitally put it back together if need be. And it wound up being not my thing. There was an artistic rendition done for Paula and Terry's DS9 Companion book. Oh my gosh. Okay, look at, so I'm so glad. I hope everybody really enjoyed that. Somebody pointed out that that was, especially 1-to-1, that was a lot like a Portal 47 guest night. I'm just looking here at the tail end, gang. Thank you so much. I know there's something is happening at 1 o'clock right now, and a lot of you probably left to go see that. But I will try to finish off. Oh my gosh, I can't possibly do this. I'm so way behind here. Oh my God, the fashions. Well, Zoe, that's why fashion changes. That fashion and fonts change, so we can always tell when an image was taken. Of course, now we have black and white, Polaroid, fuzzy, HD. Everyone is so modern. Yes. Glad you guys are enjoying the fashion show there of everything. Let me see. This is going to be silly. This is a trap. This is a trap. I have an interview at 2. Yes. Yeah, the historical documents. Thank you, JR. Of course, you're learning that. You're in Portal now, too. Yeah. I didn't think about this being a commercial for Portal 47, but I guess it was, gang. Let's see. Travis, you did not know I did a show. Do you mean that we sold an episode, or... See, I think by the time everyone's heard these stories, and there's plenty more folks who haven't. Or do you mean like a live stream? So Trekland Tuesdays Live is every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 Eastern. And we're adding guests now, too. Something wowed everybody here. This is so funny. Something we did was cool, and a wow, and a wow, and a wow. And incredible, and wow. Well, there you go, Zoe. This is what I do, Zoe. This is what I do. I hope it's Zoe, not Zoe. So apologies if I'm getting that wrong. There you go, Glenn. Of course, I've been doing this for 7 years. Well, we were doing this. This was a standard convention slideshow from me in the 90s with a lot more and all the Akuta. Before people knew to look at Akutagrams, I was showing you what Akutagrams were in the 90s. Unless, of course, I was in a building that had ceiling lights and no way to turn them off, like Germany. There you go. Well, Dave, you know that too. So welcome everybody that's not used to the way I do what Trekland is all about. This is what Trekland is all about in a lot of ways. Let me see. I'm looking for... there you go, Ryan. Absolutely. Absolutely. My fellow ham eater. Ham on our Tellarite pizza. Well, you're welcome, Fran. Let's see. Well, welcome to my world. Well, Anne Marie, if you want 1,000 more hours of this, you know what to do. Okay. It's okay. It's okay, Melanie. We've got one a day, so you're good. This is so funny, you guys. Lolita had to get on a plane, and I should be. There you go, Ryan. Good word. Yes. You guys went to 5 days this year, everybody. This is just the first day of Virtual TrekCon. Tell all your friends, tell your neighbors, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. While you're at it, while you're here, I didn't say like and subscribe my channel too while you're here, please. Oh, thank you, Christoph. That's a mixed bag of stuff, but there you go. Yeah, when Patrick was going, that's how Bob Justman saw Patrick. He was doing some workshops at UCLA, and they did a workshop performance. And you know, some of the most famous words in Star Trek. I believe I have just found our captain. What Bob told Gene the next day. There you go. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. And I will forever be indebted to Lolita. Being an official author in the 90s meant nothing because I was pioneering something nobody had done yet. And I thought, oh, they'll open the gates. They'll roll out the... No, it was like, oh, hi, we're doing a show. We'll talk to you when we can. I have a deadline in 3 months. And thankfully, Lolita, especially the second year, when we got the blue edition done, Lolita just told all the writers, okay, this is Larry. She didn't know, she barely had met me. And she said, this is Larry. He's working on the official book. You need to make time and talk to him. And they were like, okay. And like I said, she says, we've got a spare office. Renee's gone for the season. You can use his office. So that's the way stuff gets done. It's not always official by the book and by the box flow, the flow chart. And I totally agree, Travis. Ryan and the gang have done an amazing job this year, making this even bigger than it was. 5 days. And the Lappy Awards Sunday. And we'll be doing the wrap-up show Sunday night. Woof, 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 woof. Yes, fake it till you make it. And the rest... that and the rest, as they say, is history. Yeah, yeah. Well, Glenn, this is what a lot of the guest actors would say after they've had a 2-day gig on Star Trek. Let's see. Okay. You had the Star Trek Compendium. Yes, but did you have the Star Trek Next Gen Companion, Travis? That's the question. This is starting to feel like the end of a Trekland Tuesdays live. I'm only halfway through the chat here, you guys. Yes, that was you could see it was taped together paper off printers. But yeah. Oh, JR, you know, I have 500-600 hours of cassette tape interviews with everybody from late Next Gen all the way through the end of Enterprise. There you go. Hey, Rico, glad you could make it. And yes, happy VTC. If you're still with me, you're missing something that happened at 1 o'clock. So I just feel guilty about losing so much of our chat here. Travis, you're an Okie? Okay. We watched the episode over. Well, I mean, really, Travis, who didn't? But true. Hey, Eve. You're very welcome. Thanks to VTC for doing all this Virtual TrekCon. But this is what I do. This is my work. I mean, I appreciate all the gushing going on here, guys. Thank you for the praise. Check out portal47.net when you can. Let's see. Melissa. What, I just lost you. Thank you so much, Melissa. This is great. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. But I'm saying this is what I've done. Lolita would do this. Maybe she would do it with fatigue. I would do it with some fresh eyes. This is what we used to do at the cons in the 90s and the aughts. And this is what I do now. Well, I still do it at the cons when we can. But the con focus tends to be a lot of what's the hot new promoted thing, which is cool. And sometimes I get away with doing a Between the Cracks show. We didn't even get into in-jokes and okudograms and really hardcore. We didn't even do props and visual effects. And this was writer focused. So anyway. I'm like the monkeys. You better get ready. I may be coming to your town. Oh my gosh. Getting down to the end, maybe. Everybody is yes, Linda, way back. Lolita and Max dated for 2 or 3 years. Yes. Let's see. I'm just sitting here looking. I think everybody. Well, Janet and I used to be a twofer in the 90s when Janet was working on the show. She felt weird about it after she wasn't working there anymore, but we've done a couple of things back in the day since then. Janet and I were on the Royal Albert Hall stage for Generations 2. I have pictures of that, but Voyager documentary, there's more coming on that. Yes, absolutely, Eve. Oh, we were the kickoff? Okay, very good, everybody. Hey, Homer, you're very welcome, man. It's good to see so many Portales on here. Yeah, sorry about that, Travis. We did really well. I slimmed down the I think we're getting down to the end. Are we gonna? So again, yeah, we'll be back with life support live. Will be tomorrow at 11:30. The first time Dr. Ali and Dr. Trek, one of us is a real doctor, have reunited since we ended the podcast almost a year ago. After 2 years of weekly, that's Friday tomorrow at 11:30 Pacific, and then Monday at 1:00 Pacific, 4 Eastern, Terrace and I will be doing a virtual panel here about locations in SoCal, film locations from Star Trek, and how some tips from how you can get there, some stories from when we've had tours there. We've had the big group tour, it was mentioned, and I do the day tours. And it'll be 3 days before I'll be having people there again. Let's see. Anne Marie, thank you. A Trekcation, absolutely. That we need to trend that word a little bit. Maybe that'll happen during the cruise too. Thank you, Linda. And I'm glad we were. I didn't think about being a kickoff for the whole weekend, but there you go. Everybody who's still here, thank you back, Louise. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. And oh, Eve, absolutely. Thank you. I hope you have the red one or the black one, because the blue one is only the first 5 seasons. Oh, okay, everybody. I think everybody's leaving. Thank you for all the thank yous. You know me, I'm a completist. Oh, Travis, you have a weird question. Well, you wouldn't be the first, Travis. There you go. Oh my God. I hope everybody got out of here. Yes, get away from me. If you've got Doug and Dan coming, then yay. Is anyone at a restaurant or someplace? Occasionally. Here's the funniest thing. If you're still here, Travis, the funniest thing was we were in London at Sci-Fi Ball as guests and, did the thing, had autographs, had our panels, talked to people, did all the stuff. And then after that, we went to stay a couple of days extra and we went up to Bath because Janet's a big Jane Austen fan. And we were taking the tour through the Jane Austen Museum in Bath, and the docents there giving the tours are in costume. So they're in, Ampere, 1810s, restoration, 10s, 20s. And we were given our tour. And then at the end of it, when they leave you to go off around your own, the guy giving the tour stepped away and came back. And I looked down and he said, "Would you sign this?" And he had a copy of the Communicator, the official magazine back then that I edited. And I was in shock. And he had just been at Sci-Fi Ball and was back at work volunteering. That was surreal. I'm in the Jane Austen Museum in Bath, and a guy in 1815 garb asked me to sign his Communicator. That was one of the best times ever. It was amazing, but I was just in shock. And I have the picture with him too. So everybody, let's see. Oh, you're double streaming. You're good. Okay. Who is this? Hey, Mark. Hello. Welcome to Trekland in our corner of virtual TrekCon here. So, yeah. Who doesn't love a Dorothy Fontana story? Well, it's dangerous, though. Be careful what you wish for, because when your fandom becomes professional, you run the risk of having it be tarnished. So it's a juggling match sometime. Yeah, it's if ever there was reality to the phrase "be careful what you wish for, you may get it." You have to watch. You have to watch. And hello from the Olympia, Washington Star Trek fan club. Well, hi, Mark. I came to Emerald City Comic Con for 4 or 5 years in a row in the early teens, and love seeing Seattle. But I haven't been back since. I wish it'd be great to be a guest up there again and have somebody come. And we shot 2 different places for the Con of Wrath, my documentary. There you go. Okay. It's the end of the chat as we know it. Thanks everybody staying on. I'm so glad you could kick off. I hope everybody is watching Doug and Dan right now. And this will be recorded and up, and we will catch you all later. Check us out, LarryNemecek.com. Trekland Tuesdays Live is Tuesdays at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern, 9 p.m. European UK time, and 10 Central Europe. Portal47.net, your minicon all year long for all the Trek fans who have no idea how much Star Trek they have no idea about. Of course, the Trek Files is on the Roddenberry podcast. That's out every Tuesday. And Trekline Treks whenever you're in LA for your real life away mission, everybody. Hey, I've got my portal glass today, but Trek well, everybody. We'll see you later. Enjoy the rest of Virtual TrekCon, and we'll see you there on Friday, Sunday, and Monday too.